Welcome to Beyond Scrub's cooking show. Just kidding. Well, welcome to our channel. Ilya's been very busy. He's been working a lot of hours and we haven't been really exploring the area. As we said in the prior video, we're in Tampa area and it's really hot outside, so we haven't been doing a lot except a lot of pool and a lot of beach. And we'll film that some other day and we'll show you some of our favorite beaches in the area. And today I'm going to show you how to make a very popular, super yummy, I think it's Uzbekian dish in Instant Pot. So it's pretty much rice and meat type of one pot meal thing called plov. Usually, traditionally, it's made over the fire in a giant cast iron pot that's this big, or like a wok type of thing, and you cook it over the fire for hours and hours and hours. This is a simple version, but tastes really close. Okay, these are all my ingredients, and I'll be using lamb instead of beef. And the recipe does require you to use brown rice. So this recipe is from Natasha's Kitchen. She's a very famous Russian-American cook, blogger, YouTuber person that I love her recipes, and I'm gonna link all the recipes and all that stuff below. We're gonna double click on the saute button and it's gonna heat up on high. And when the Instant Pot is hot, never measure my oil. I just do a couple swigs around and throw the lamb in. And make sure it's an all-in-one layer for even browning. Meanwhile, while it's browning, I'm going to show you how I cut these carrots. Perfect little sticks.
Yeah. I don't like squash, but you do.
Another great thing about doing one-pot meals, less dishwashing. We don't have a dishwasher, so it's kind of nice when everything's in one pot. We turned the AC off and it's extremely hot in here. So if you see sweat dripping down my face, don't mind me. Okay, well, I guess let's keep going. Gotta throw the butter in. And then go the onions. I didn't chop the onions really fine. Instant Pot takes care of all of that. It's pretty much, onions are pretty much non-existent after all of this. They're all gonna melt. Okay, carrots go next. The recipe calls for 3 carrots, but our kids don't really like cooked carrots that much. So I kind of modify to our own needs. Alright, spices. And not stingy on those spices either, so most of my measurements are not exact. So cook that for another 5 minutes. Has it been 5 minutes? Oh well. I'm using brown basmati rice. The recipe calls for short grain, but make sure it's brown. The cooking times are approximately the same, so you don't really have to worry about that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put it evenly over. So this garlic is cut in half, maybe. I can never figure this out, always. So, poke some holes with the back of the wooden spoon. Need 4 cups of hot water. At this point, I turn my Instant Pot off. So I'm going to pour it over our garlic. Cover. Pressure cook. 30 minutes. You're supposed to leave this a natural pressure release for 10 minutes. I forgot, so it's been 14 minutes, but I'm gonna take it outside since I always depressurize my Instant Pot outside so it doesn't steam up your whole RV or your house. All right, let's go. Close the door, Daria.
Yes. Booby.
Okay, just be very careful when opening. Make sure the valve is already down. Pick the garlic out. But I normally squeeze the garlic back in, but in this case, I'm gonna let it cool a
Mom,
little bit.
I don't like it.
Mommy's taking it out.
I'm taking the garlic out, Daria.
I love you, left.
Mommy, I don't want rice. Mom, I don't want rice.
I'm gonna mix it in. Trish, can you video this? Can you video this? Okay, in this recipe, I'm using cilantro. To mix it in, you can use parsley.
Yummy.
Yummy, yummy. I can see how the meat is already all falling apart. I'll try it.
That's it.
Mmm.
What?
So good.
Usually I would say it's not good to eat.
I guess Ilya bribed me sufficiently. I'm going to show you how I bake bread in the RV oven. And this is not going to be the sourdough bread that you've seen in the last episode. This is going to be a sandwich sourdough bread, which makes a perfect little loaf. You can slice it for a sandwich bread. Okay, so this is my sourdough starter, and I've made it by myself. And I wanted to show you the video how I made it, but it took me so long to make it, I totally butchered it. But it actually did turn out. So below, I'm going to post links of the recipes that I used and everything right there, so you can find it. So this is my starter that I just pulled out of the fridge. It's dark because it's made out of rye flour. I'm gonna feed it right now. In a few hours, it's gonna be ready to go. Sourdough baking, you have to have the scale. And to feed the starter, you have to do equal amounts of starter, flour, and water. I'm going to weigh my jar, then I'm gonna weigh this starter. So I have about 120 grams of starter. I'm gonna add approximately 120 grams of water. The trick with rye flour, you have to use a little bit less of rye flour or a little bit less of water because it becomes too thick. I cover it up and let it sit for a few hours on the countertop. So it's been about 2 hours since I fed the starter, and you can see it's nice and fluffy. And I usually do a flow test, but I'm not going to do a flow test because I know it's going to pass. But to do a flow test, you put a teaspoon of the starter into a cup of water, and it's supposed to flow to the top. All right, so I just plop a bowl right on the scale, and I'm going to try to do this one-handed. Ilya's at work, so I got to film this all by myself. But I'm going to measure the flour. 357 grams. So I'm shooting for 500 grams of flour. I mix it all by hand. I just take the butter, squish it. Bread making is very hands-on, especially when you're in an RV. I don't have a KitchenAid, so I do everything by hand. Kind of reminds me of how my mom used to bake bread, or my grandma back in Ukraine. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to roughly mix it with my hand, and let it rest for 30 minutes. The rest of the starter, I'm just putting in the fridge. It can stay in the fridge up to 7 days. That you don't have to feed it. It's kind of nice because if I recently fed it, I can take it out in 2 days and it will be still active enough and I can make something else.
Mom, this is a piece of chip. Mom, this is a piece.
So Daria's helping me. And this is what the dough looks like. It's holding well together. It's not sticking to your hands anymore. Gotta clean this out. I'm just gonna cover it with wet towel.
Yeah.
You can cover it with saran wrap.
Yeah, you also like this bread.
Do you like this bread?
Yeah, you're my mommy.
Aw, so sweet.
So we'll talk about it.
Okay, we'll talk about it. So I'll see you in 30 minutes.
Bye.
Alright, 30 minutes are up and it's about 9 o'clock right now. I am so exhausted. But I do this bread really late at night so it can ferment overnight and I can bake it first thing in the morning. It's really warm here in Florida, so the fermentation process probably takes a little shorter than it would up in north. But so I'm gonna mix it for about 8 minutes or so by hand, or you can use a dough hook and your kitchen aid. So Daria's gonna help me. Go wash your hands, baby. Don't. So I'm just shaping it like this, putting it under, putting it back. I'm gonna cover it with a wet towel again. Now it will sit overnight and in the morning we'll continue. It's about 7 in the morning and the kids are still sleeping. So I am trying to be really quiet. Okay, so the bread is ready. This is how it looks. It's nice and puffy. I greased a bread pan with butter, so it's all ready. So I'm gonna take some flour and dust the countertop. I'm gonna leave it on the counter for another hour or so until it reaches the rim of the pan or a little bit above the rim. Okay, it's been about 2.5 hours. I think it's risen enough. I have the oven preheated for 375. I'm gonna bake this for 45 minutes. I have the rack on the highest level. I think it's ready. Let's look at it. Oh my goodness, it's like stuck. Here. Whoa, it's huge. Yeah, it's huge. Cracked a little bit on the side. So good.
Let me record a little bit.
You want to record a little bit? Here, you hold this. Daria's gonna record mommy, okay? I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna take it out on the rack.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's gonna take it out on the rack.
Oh, ooh, hot, 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 hot.
Hot in there. This is hot bread.
Look at this bread.
Ooh, it's
Recording.
amazing.
Ah, hot, 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 hot.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
So, we're gonna talk about it. Here's my mommy. She made some bread.
So you have to wait about an hour until you can cut into this. It's crunchy all over. So good. Look at this perfect crumb on the inside. Oh, it smells so good. Want some bread?
Yeah.
Here.
It tastes so good.
I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you next week. It's amazing.
Mom, look at this though. Isn't it amazing? It's so amazing and toady. And sticky. And this dough is amazing. See, over here is the kitchen where Mommy bakes